Welcome back, Midnight Readers. We are jumping into the final stretch of Royally Surprised. A little recap of what has happened so far is that Stella was an ordinary girl from an ordinary town, and the prince selected her to kind of fall in line with this modern day fairy tale. In their little corner of the world, things are the same as they've been for the last 300 years, where about every 25 to 30 years or so, a prince selects a bride before he's crowned the next king. And they kind of go with it because the kings, protect all the towns and fund them and everything else. And so when it occurs, they just all kind of fall in line. Stella was selected by the prince. They had kind of a bumpy start. There's a lot of misunderstandings and twists and turns that have taken place. And she started to feel bad because she didn't dislike the prince whatsoever, but things just kept happening that made it seem that way. And she felt even worse realizing that they were coming on his father's passing, the king's passing. And it was the first one he was going to endure alone with his mom overseas. And so she goes out of her way to try to make it perfect and do some special things, such as getting these flowers that are only available in one place. And she enlists the help of the castle staff, as well as her best friend who has re-entered the picture. However, her best friend has kind of thrown a curveball because he was best friends with her in her preteen and teenage years and, kind of was always there with her. He would bake with their parents. He taught her different things like whittling wood and archery, but he never hit on her. And so for her, that's a very platonic relationship. However, he's been saying a couple of comments here and there lately that is making it seem as though it may not be for him. That may not be the case. And the prince has picked up on that and is pretty positive that there was something there between them, which whatever was between them wasn't two-way. Okay, and so she has finally set this record straight with him. They planted a beautiful flower bush with the king's favorite flowers in memorial of him, and then they had another little misunderstanding, and she goes to the library to get away, and when she looks above the prince, she's like dumbfounded. The picture she sees hanging above him is of the queen and king. However, when she met them as Uncle Mark and Aunt Annie, which were her best friend's aunt and uncle. And they even stayed with her at her house because her best friend had gotten sick when they came into town. She spent the whole weekend with them, teaching them to bake and showing them around. And now she's realizing it was the king and queen that stayed with her, and she had no idea. And so she's kind of feeling like, it's kind of like fate bringing them back together. And that's where they are. They're discussing this, everything that's happened and where they are now and where they're going to go. The prince and Stella have decided that they're going to go forward and try to pursue the relationship because they both have strong feelings for one another. They're going to try to stop the misunderstandings and have better communication. And then the best friend had walked in, Dimitri. He walked in and kind of leaves kind of upset seeing them together. And so that's where we are. We are starting back up at chapter 10. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 10. We were both shocked when there was a knock and Dee reappeared. Sorry to interrupt again, but do you actually think I could have a minute? He asked while sporting a strange expression. Eddie and I glanced at one another, then back to Dee. I don't think either of us were fully sure who he had wanted to speak to. Sure, Eddie replied. An awkward silence filled the room as we all stood there waiting for one another to speak. Finally, Dee spoke, turning to me. Stella, mind if I have a minute to speak to my cousin alone? Oh, sure, I said. I hurried out as an uncomfortable feeling washed over me. A moment later, I ran into Belinda down the hall. Seeing the look on my face, she asked what was going on. I told her of how Eddie and I had worked things out, and how Dee had walked in on us, left, and then came back and asked to speak to Eddie privately. Oh, this sounds like something is definitely up. Time for me to go snoop, dust by the doorway. I loved her. She was sassy, resourceful, and on my side. Okay, let me know what you find out, I said, flashing a mischievous smile. Will do, she whispered and hurried off. Close to half an hour went by before Belinda joined me in my room. She sat beside me on my bed and sighed. Oh boy, you're never going to believe this. I don't even know where to start. Apparently, the last correspondence Dimitri had with the king was a letter he received regarding you. The king was ill and knew he didn't have much time left, so he wrote to Dimitri inquiring about what had happened to you and if you were still unmarried. He requested that Dmitri introduce you to the prince, if possible, if Dmitri felt like you two would be a good fit. However, Dmitri never did contact you after the king's passing, due to his personal feelings towards you. He wanted to protect you, and even though he was deployed in another country at the time, he couldn't bring himself to set you up with another man when he was the one longing to be with you. My jaw dropped. You must have misheard. It's hard to believe that the king even remembered me, and even harder to believe that Dee has feelings for me. Oh no, there was no mistaking. Their conversation had gotten quite heated after that. The prince angrily questioned Dmitri how he could have denied the king his dying wish, and Dmitri attempted to explain that the letter said, only if you think they're a good fit. He said he did not think it was a good fit because you needed to be with someone who understood you, knew what it took to make you smile, and some other mushy stuff. That only made the prince angrier. He asked Dmitri who he thought he was to make that kind of decision. After an awkward silence, the prince finally suggested that they let you decide who you wanted to be with on your own. Dmitri turned the suggestion down, though, and countered by offering that they partake in an archery competition. Winner gets you. The prince said he didn't like it, and he strongly felt it should be your call. Dmitri taunted him, asking him if he was scared that he would lose, then offered to throw in a sword fight as well. The prince agreed. Are you serious? What are they, cavemen? And now I'm all of a sudden some prize to be won? To top it off, I think it's going to be an unfair competition. I've never seen Dee miss his mark when it comes to archery. Have some faith in your prince. He's quite skilled as well, and has never been defeated in a sword fight, assuming it's him who you're hoping will win, she said questioningly. It is, but I definitely don't want Dee hurt. And honestly, the more I think about it, the angrier I'm getting. I should definitely have some say in who I want to be with, I said frustratedly. Well, then we should probably head out to the archery range before all of the antics begin. I looked at her in disbelief. You mean they're doing it now? She shook her head yes, before nodding her head for me to follow. We hurried along the seemingly endless hallway and down the grand stairs in an attempt to reach the guys before their challenge could commence. We made it out just as they were gearing up. What's going on? I questioned. They both stared at me in shock. Dee was first to speak. Let us finish this up, and then I'll explain, he said, turning back around and grabbing an arrow. I looked at Eddie, who was now approaching me. Please don't do this, I said, looking into his eyes. Wrapping his hand around the back of my head and leaning his forehead into mine, he sighed. I'm sorry. I should have just come to you. Tell me, who do you truly want? Don't worry, I won't be mad. Perhaps a little hurt, but not mad. I just want to see you happy. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. I want you to be happy too, and I want to be a part of that. I'm shocked that you two agreed on this little challenge, especially after everything that we talked about and that it happened earlier, I replied, feeling mixed emotions. I know, and I apologize, but you need to have a little more faith in me, he whispered before looking deep into my eyes. I need to hear you say it. Who do you want to be with? Fine, it's you. I want to be with you, okay? You have no idea how relieved I am to hear you say that, he said, kissing my forehead. So does that mean that you'll call this craziness off? No, I just need you to trust me. Can you do that for me? I couldn't believe it. After I had said all that, he was still going to proceed with some stupid little challenges that will ultimately determine who I'll end up with? To say that I was irritated would be an understatement. Do I have a choice? I questioned. He grabbed my hand. I promise, everything will be fine. With that, he walked back over and joined Dee at their marks. I looked at Belinda, who looked just as shocked as me. Just then Jasper came to stand beside us. You two look a bit out of sorts. Everything okay? No, everything's not okay. Eddie knows it's him who I want to be with, yet he's still proceeding to go ahead with this stupid little challenge, I blurted out frustratedly. I see. And you're worried he'll lose? What? I mean, yes, a bit. Dee's an amazing marksman. But it's not just that. I'm upset because he asked me what I wanted, and I told him that I wanted him. Then he continued on with the challenge as if he didn't care, I explained. I think his reason for asking you what you want may not have been clear. I'm guessing he planned on throwing the challenge in Dimitri's favor, if it was truly him that you wanted. However, seeing as how you favor our prince, he has no reason to hold back. I was lost. I'm sorry, I don't follow. Where do you think Dmitri learned the skill of archery? He asked with a raised brow. Here? I questioned. That's correct. Here. Right beside Eddie. However, Being the leader of the guard, Eddie has not only been taught the skill of archery, but the skill of archery in combat. Whereas Dimitri is quite skilled at stationary targets, Eddie has been trained for both stationary and mobile ones. It has been many years since they trained together, so they do not know one another's skill level, but rest assured, there is not a single member of the guard that can defeat Eddie in archery or sword fighting. I sighed. I hope you're right. Try not to worry. You do understand why he has chosen to go through with this, right? No idea. I responded, making it clear I was not happy about it. He's doing it partly for Dimitri, but mostly for you. He wants Dimitri to feel like he had a chance with you, and he also understands that you don't want to hurt Dimitri, so by defeating him in the challenges, the fact that you choose Eddie remains a secret, while still giving you what you want, Jasper explained. All the anger, hurt, and frustration I had been feeling in that moment began to subside, as I realized just how thoughtful and caring Eddie truly was. I had never been more sure about anything than I was in that moment. Eddie was the right choice for me. I just prayed that the challenges worked out the way they seemed to think they would. Chapter 11. The first round of archery was too close for comfort. Round 1 was comprised of stationary targets. Round 2 was set to be a mixture of stationary and moving targets. And round 3 would be solely moving. I watched nervously, awaiting the outcome. By the end of round 2, Eddie was in the lead, but not by much. When they stopped for a momentary break between 2 and 3, Dee approached me. Can we talk for a minute? He asked. Sure. I'm sure you know by now what this is all about. I'm sorry I never told you sooner. I was scared of ruining what we had. I hope you can understand. I do. But you don't feel the same? He questioned, looking defeated. It's not that. Had you told me at a different time, things may have turned out differently. It's just that I've come to really like and care about Eddie. I attempted to explain gently. Is it that? Or is it that you think you need to fix him? I'm sorry, that was out of line. Look, regardless of the outcome right now, I'm always going to be here whenever you need me, or want me. I'll go bow out of this competition. I think you should finish it. Not because you're trying to win me like some prize, but because it's the sportsmanlike thing to do. Okay, if that's what you wish, he said, returning to his mark, with his head hung low. I glanced over to find Eddie looking at me questioningly with an arched brow. I smiled and gave him a thumbs up with hopes of letting him know everything was okay. The third round was quick. Eddie won by far. I wasn't sure if it was due to pure skill, or if it was due to the fact that it looked like something broke within Dee. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't help but feel bad. We all jumped at the sound of applause at the end of the third round. Well done, my boy! A voice called out from behind us. It was the Queen. And you! She said rather sternly, looking me up and down. It's wonderful to see you. I told you two would hit it off, she continued with a big smile. Aunt Annie? Your Highness? I exclaimed. Eddie came over, gave his mom a hug, and draped his arm around my shoulders. Dee then joined us as well. What's going on here? She said, motioning to the aftermath of the competition. Just a friendly little round of archery to keep us on our toes, Eddie replied, giving Dee a pat on the back with his free hand. Dee forced a smile and nodded. Well then, all of you go get cleaned up and meet me for tea in an hour. We have some royal arrangements to make for our future king. She smiled, beaming with pride. Eddie accompanied me to my room to get cleaned up. I had just hopped out of the shower, and he had hopped in. Just as I zipped up my dress, there was a knock on the door. I was shocked to find Dee standing there with red eyes. Hey, are you okay? I asked, feeling a bit worried. I told Aunt Annie, the Queen, everything. What do you mean? I questioned. I told her about the king's letter. Apparently she had known about it. I then confessed I had not followed through with his final wishes, but rather Eddie had somehow managed to find his way to you all on his own. I explained that I had always loved you, but had yet to find the way and time to tell you. She understood when I told her I couldn't take part in the ceremony preparations. I hope you can too. I'll return for the ceremony. However, you could still call me if you should need me for anything until then. Thank you. I know how hard this is. I appreciate you more than you know. He nodded, placed his hands on my shoulders, and kissed my forehead. Don't think too highly of me. Although I'm not rooting for your and Eddie's relationship to fail, I'm not rooting for it to succeed either. That's fair. I told you, I do understand. And I still appreciate you. I reassured him. He hugged me before disappearing down the long hallway. As soon as the door closed, Eddie stepped out of the bathroom. The look on his face told me he had heard it all. Not sure what he was thinking, I waited for him to speak. His gaze was intense as he approached me. It took everything in me to keep my eyes from wandering down his chiseled physique, as he was wearing nothing more than a towel. "Come here," he finally said, extending his hand. I placed my hand in his, allowing him to pull me closer. He brushed a strand of hair away from my face as he began to speak. "I understand you and Dimitri have history, and he clearly has pretty strong feelings for you. I just need to know that you're sure you want to go through with this. With me." As I stared up into his deep blue eyes, I couldn't look away. I was lost in their depth, the way they glistened and the hope that they held. "Eddie, I told you. Although this very well may be the most terrifying decision of my life thus far, I choose you, and everything that comes with it." He let out a sigh, and a smile spread across his face. My God, was he handsome when he smiled. He didn't do that enough. I planned to change that. "May I kiss you?" he asked, already moving closer. As one arm wrapped around my waist, and the other coming to rest at the nape of my neck, I nodded. "Yes." There they were again, those fairy-tale-like sparks, as his lips pressed against mine. He pulled me in closer, until our bodies were flushed as he continued to kiss me. In that moment, it felt like the world stood still, and there was no one and nothing there but us. No worries, no obligations, no other people. Just us, happily together in that moment. However, it was short-lived, as just a few moments later there came a knock on the door. It was Belinda informing us that the Queen was requesting our presence in the dining hall. Eddie grabbed his clothes and hurried to his room to change. I waited a few moments before heading to the hall, as, although I liked the Queen, it inevitably would be an awkward situation being one-on-one with her. I walked slowly towards the dining hall, with hopes of arriving at the same time as Eddie. Unfortunately, my dilly-dallying did not pay off, and I found myself alone, face-to-face with the Queen. "Come sit, dear. Let me get a good look at you. I can't believe nearly a decade has gone by since I last saw you." "I can't believe no one told me you were the Queen," I blurted out without thinking. She let out a laugh. "Well, would you have treated me the same if you had known I was? Would you have answered all my questions so truthfully, or shared your secrets with me? Would you have still insisted on teaching me to bake your mom's fabulous pies?" she questioned with an arch brow. "I suppose not," I said, understanding what she was getting at. She hadn't told us, as they hadn't wanted any special treatment. "Sorry to hear about your parents, by the way. I will never forget their kindness and compassion." "Thank you. Sorry to hear about the king as well. I know that has been difficult." "Yes, it was. Although I miss him terribly, I find peace knowing he is peacefully at rest now. It's Eddie who seems to still be having quite a bit of difficulty with it. I do want to thank you, however." "Thank me? For what?" I questioned, baffled. "Belinda and Jasper informed me of what you did for Eddie with the flowers. That was very kind and thoughtful of you, and I'm happy you were here with him since I couldn't be. Can I ask you something personal before he arrives?" I was both nervous and curious. What personal question did she have for me? "Of course," I responded. "I had a little chat with Dimitri regarding you just a little bit ago. It seems my nephew is feeling a bit of a heartache over your being with Eddie. Do you share those types of feelings for Dimitri?" I opened my mouth to speak, but hesitated. I had to think of how to respond to that. I was in the presence of the Queen, whose son I was supposed to be marrying, after all. "I give you permission to speak candidly. Right now, I'm Aunt Annie, not the Queen. Anything you say here will stay between us girls." I smiled. Although they were mere words, the sentiment made me feel a bit more at ease. I had always looked at Dimitri sort of like a big brother, and he never did anything to let me know he had feelings for me. Nothing I caught on to, anyway. Well, with the exception of the night before he and his family moved away, he took me for a walk down by the river. It was the first time he ever held my hand as we walked. He told me that he was going to miss me more than I could possibly imagine, and how sorry he was that he wouldn't be by my side to protect me from whatever the world threw at me in the years to come. Before the night was over, we had laughed, we had cried, and just before he walked away, he kissed me. I had chalked it up to the emotions that were flying high as we said our goodbyes, not knowing what the future would hold. We kept in touch via phone and letters, yet neither of us brought up that kiss ever again. I did find myself wondering from time to time if things would have changed into something more had he stayed, or what would have happened if we were to ever see one another again. However, as the years progressed, I eventually thought of him less and less, and our correspondence dwindled as well. I never dreamt I'd come face to face with him here, at the palace, after meeting a man I seem to be falling for a little bit more each and every day. So to answer your question, I suppose I could have feelings for Dimitri. Possibly even did at one point, but they're nothing in comparison to how I'm starting to feel for Eddie. I see. Thank you for your honest answer. You know, you are allowed to have feelings for others, as long as they don't sway or trump the feelings for the one you're intended to be with, she whispered before looking past me. Now, Eddie, are you going to linger in the doorway all day, or are you going to come join us? My breath caught, realizing he had been standing there behind me. I was scared to see his face, his reaction. He came and knelt down in front of me. She's right, you know. That was a good answer, and my feelings for you have grown quite strong as well, he whispered, giving me a wink. We spent the remainder of the day planning the ceremony. Everything went quite well. We agreed on almost every detail, until she suggested that Dimitri be the one to walk me down the aisle and give me away. That would definitely be far too awkward, given everything that was said and done. And a small part of me didn't want him to give me away. I didn't like what that signified. That night, I couldn't fall asleep. I had been tossing and turning when there was a knock on my door and Eddie popped his head in. Are you asleep? No, come on in, I said. He entered, shutting the door behind him. I'm sorry, I couldn't sleep. Something's bugging me, and I can't get it out of my head, no matter how hard I try. So I'm hoping you don't mind me being in here for a while. Being around you just seems to help, for some reason. I smiled and patted the bed as I slid over to make room for him. He lay down on his back and stared up at the ceiling, so I lay back as well. I was surprised when he wrapped his arm around me. This is okay, right? I nodded, cuddling into him as his grip tightened ever so slightly. So, what's bothering you? I finally questioned. My father. Just that he won't be there to see me marry the most amazing girl I've ever met, or to see me step up into the role of king. Ah, I think he will be able to see it, and will be very proud of you, might I add, but I understand what you mean. I wish my parents could be here for this as well. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we switch out the flowers we decided on today to the special ones of your father's? That way, if he is looking down watching, he'll see he was not forgotten, and if not, well, at least we will feel closer to him, like he's all around us. I know it's not a lot, but I was saying when he cut me off. No, it's perfect. I love you. My jaw dropped. Did he mean that he actually loved me? Or that he loved me for being so thoughtful and coming up with the idea? It's okay. You don't have to say it back. I don't want you to say it until you're sure you mean it, he said, loosening the grip he had on me. Pulling him back in, I whispered, I'm sorry. I was just trying to figure out if you had actually meant it. Those aren't words that I believe in throwing around, he replied, almost sounding insulted. Oh, well, in that case, I love you too. With that, he hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe before kissing me. I stayed entangled in his arms the entire night and got the best sleep I had since before my parents had passed. I was thankful that all the rumors about Eddie proved to be nothing more than rumors. He was everything I hadn't realized I'd been needing. Chapter 12. The wedding day seemed to be approaching at a rapid pace, and Dimitri had yet to return. I had finally gotten up the courage to tell the Queen my reservations about having Dimitri walk me down the aisle. She understood after our lengthy chat, and seemed quite proud of the alternative that she came up with. She insisted that if I didn't want Dimitri to walk me down the aisle, she would do it herself. I actually didn't hate the idea, so I agreed. On the day of the wedding, my heart sank a little when I scanned the crowd from my hiding spot up on the second-story landing, only to discover Dimitri was nowhere to be seen. I jumped, startled when a hand landed on my shoulder. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. You look beautiful, by the way. Dee! I exclaimed, giving him a big hug. I know you have to get down there, but can we talk for just a minute? Okay, I replied, not liking the tone of his voice. Don't do it. What? I asked, confused as to what he was referring to. Don't marry Eddie. Dee. Never mind. The sound of your voice tells me all I need to know. You are clearly set on marrying him. And where I'm happy for the two of you, it feels like a piece of me is dying. Dee, I hate that this is hurting you. I wish there was something I could do to make it better, aside from not marrying Eddie. I teased in an attempt to lighten the mood. There is something, but I only want you to agree to it if you mean it. Okay, what is it? If anything ever happened to Eddie, or things didn't work out, you'd let me be there for you. Let me step up in his place. Initially, I was shocked by his request, However, the more I thought about it, I was shocked to discover it was making me feel a mixture of safety and reassurance. Not only would agreeing to this make him feel better, but it made me feel a bit better about everything as well. I agree, with one condition, however. This stays strictly between us and only us. A little smile tugged at the corners of his mouth as he stuck his hand out to shake mine. Deal, he said. He pulled me in and hugged me tightly before linking arms with me. Okay, let's get you downstairs where you're meant to be. I smiled and nodded, following his lead. Oh yeah, I forgot to thank you. For what? I questioned. I heard a rumor that Aunt Annie wanted me to give you away today. Thank you for declining. I could and would never give you away. In my heart, part of you will always be mine. There you are! It's time! The Queen said, rushing over to me. She motioned for the musicians to start playing and took my arm from Dee's. As we walked down the aisle towards the prince, who would soon be my husband, my heart skipped a beat. Eddie's eyes glistened as he watched us approach. At the end of the aisle, the Queen gave me a squeeze and let go of my arm. With my hands now in Eddie's, I stared up into those ocean blues. The contentment and excitement that surged through me confirmed I had made the right choice. The way Eddie dipped me back and kissed me when they announced, "You may now kiss the bride," sent sparks surging throughout me, and I was excited to start this new chapter of my life as his wife. The crowning ceremony was the following week, and I'd be lying if I said that my husband wasn't the most handsome king I had ever seen. Who would have thought that my life, that had felt like a nightmare not all that long ago, would end up turning into a fairy tale, complete with my very own Prince Charming? I suppose the moral of the story is, always keep your head up, even when times feel hard, because you never know what grand adventure may be waiting around the corner for you. I thought it was sweet, heartwarming, and an exciting adventure. What about you? Alright, are you guys ready to find out what new book we're going to dive into next time? On Thursday, we are going to be diving into our new book, Butterflies of the Heart 2. And it contains 3 stories in the single book. They're all standalone. And let's see. Brothers of Power is the first one. The second one is Forever Part of My World. And the third one is Their Legend, Our Destiny. On Thursday, we are going to embark on, let's see. I think we're going to go with Their Legend, Our Destiny. Who knows? You might get lucky. I might read a second one to you out of this as well. Want to hear the teaser? Here it is. Who was the disheveled yet handsome man who had appeared in our new house on moving day? And how had he vanished the second she turned away? Were her cousin and best friend right? Was it the stress of everything getting to her? Or was she right to trust her own instincts and eyes? Shelley had known what she had seen, however, couldn't understand what he had made her feel. It isn't until she learns of a local legend that things start to make sense. It is now up to her to determine if it is in fact a legend, or rather, her destiny. Alright guys, see you Thursday.